This is the moment that I realized $1,000,000 wasn't safety. There's this story that we tell ourselves as founders. If I can just hit $1,000,000, then I'll finally feel safe. Safe to rest, safe to breathe, safe to stop clawing at the edge. And I really believed it. I tracked my net worth. I hit revenue milestones. I saw 7 figures staring back at me across every single metric: income, assets, even my business valuation. But this is the thing that no one really tells you about all this. Hitting $1,000,000 doesn't flip a switch. It turns on a spotlight. A spotlight on your anxiety, a spotlight on your identity, a spotlight on how little you actually trust any of this stuff. I remember checking my accounts one night, and I was feeling proud. I built something real. I was secure by every outside standard. But then I had this thought that I really couldn't shake. If the wrong 2 clients leave, I'm screwed. What if this dries up in a year? Why do I still feel like it could all collapse? I wasn't safer. I was even more exposed because now I had more to lose, more systems to maintain, more people expecting me to keep it all together. I wasn't really sleeping all that much better. I wasn't really relaxing more. I wasn't even enjoying the freedom that I had earned. What I had financially, it wasn't really the problem. What I hadn't built was internal safety, a nervous system that really trusted that I would be okay, a life designed for stability, not just scale, a business that supported peace, not just performance. That was the real wake-up call. $1,000,000 is a milestone, but it's not a finish line, and it's definitely not a feeling. So, in the next section here, I'm going to share exactly what I learned about why so many ambitious and capable people out there, they just keep moving the goalpost, and how that chase really does become its own prison. Here's why $1,000,000 does become a prison, but not a promise. Let's talk about what happens after you hit that first big number. Not the rah-rah podcast story, the quiet part that most founders won't really say out loud. I got everything I wanted, but I still feel trapped. It doesn't happen immediately. There's usually a high, a victory lap. You take the trip, you buy something nice, you tell yourself, I did it. But then the question really starts to creep in. Can I maintain this? Will it be enough next year? Is this even who I want to be anymore? And you start optimizing for protection, not expansion. So, this is what I've seen, all right, and I've lived. First of all, lifestyle inflation creeps in silently. Suddenly your freedom comes with a $25,000 a month burn rate. Every single dip feels like danger. Every slowdown feels like failure. Second, team pressure multiplies. You're no longer just building for yourself. You are responsible for other people's mortgages. You don't have the luxury of collapse. Third, identity becomes entangled. Your worth is now married to numbers. So if growth slows, you're going to start questioning your value. And if revenue dips, your confidence is going to plummet. And this is the most dangerous part. You lose the ability to rest. Even when you take time off, your nervous system, it's still buzzing. You're in a loop of scanning, predicting, protecting. This is not a money problem. It's an attachment problem. You've attached safety to a number, and that number is never going to be high enough to make you feel safe if your default state is always on edge. So what do most founders actually do? They raise the bar again. If I get to $2,000,000, then I'll feel safe. If I build a team of 10, then I can relax. If I sell for 8 figures, then I'll finally feel free. But the goalpost keeps moving, and the prison just gets a little nicer, more luxurious, more praised, but it's still a prison nonetheless. All right? So, now I'm going to show you the 3 biggest illusions that high achievers buy into after they make it. and how each one is going to rob you of peace. So, here are those illusions that are going to keep founders stuck. After talking to hundreds of high-earning founders, I can tell you this: the real trap is not financial, it's psychological. And there are 3 illusions that keep even the smartest, even the most self-aware operators stuck in cycles of stress, striving, and subtle self-abandonment. So let's break these down. All right, here we go. Illusion number 1, I need to keep earning my safety. This one shows up as something like this: if I stop now, I'm going to fall behind. One bad quarter, and this could all go away. I'm only as secure as my last launch, my last client, my last deal. Even if your bank account says otherwise. Your nervous system, sometimes it says you're not. So you keep pushing. Not because you want more, but because you don't really trust what you've already built. Let's get into number 2. All right? This next thing is going to finally feel like enough. Wrong. This is the classic high performer trap. You know that milestone, it hasn't satisfied you in the past, but you still believe that the next one will. The next product, the next big partnership, the next level of recognition. So what do? You keep playing the game. You keep chasing that feeling that can't really be bought, launched, or even landed. And even worse, you ignore the voice that's inside that whispering. You're allowed to feel peace now, but you don't. Here's illusion number 3. If I slow down, I'm going to lose my edge. This one is sneaky. Right? You've built your identity around being intense, capable, high-performing. So rest, it feels dangerous. Simplicity feels like regression. Slowness starts to feel like weakness. So you believe that your edge comes from pressure, when in reality, your edge, it was always clarity and capacity. When you are grounded, you are lethal. When you're calm, you can actually hear your own genius. When you're rested, your best ideas show up. But somehow you've forgotten that because you've never felt safe enough to stop. And that's obviously a problem. So let's dig into what real internal safety looks like. And this is how you build it, even if your entire system is wired for intensity. Let's get into it. Here's what real safety actually feels like and how you can build it. If you have been chasing external markers, money, growth, applause, for a long enough period of time, you kind of forget what real safety actually feels like. It's not passive income. It's not 6 months of runway. It's not even freedom. It's the moment that you stop flinching at silence. It's when your chest isn't really tight on a Sunday night. It's when you can still sit still for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone. It's when one bad email doesn't really hijack your entire nervous system. Real safety is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of internal permission to move slower, to say no, to stop having to prove yourself. So what does it actually look like, tangibly? First, predictable rhythm. You've designed a day-to-day schedule that really starts to calm your system instead of frying it. You know what enough looks like, and you honor it. Second, bounded input. You don't wake up and ingest noise. You begin to protect your attention. You don't chase every single idea or trend or anxiety cycle. 3, earned trust with yourself. You've seen that even in tough moments, you can handle it. You don't need everything to be perfect to feel steady. You just need to know that you'll respond and not spiral. 4th, stability over spike. You no longer need the dopamine hit of big launches or high-level months. You've built a foundation that sustains, not seduces. So, here's how to build it, even if you are wired for intensity. All right, start with this one. This is the question you got to ask. If my income didn't change for an entire year, what would I build differently? Let the answer guide your systems, your boundaries, your yes and no. Then you got to layer in a default calendar built around energy, not output. A rule to pause before saying yes to anything urgent. A weekly review that asks, did I feel safe this week? Not just, was I productive? This is slow work, guys, but it's the kind that lasts. Because once you've actually built internal safety, you stop needing external validation to feel powerful. So, here's why founders actually do struggle to let go, even when they are burned out. You would think burnout would be the signal, right? To slow down, to recalibrate, to say no, to rebuild from a calmer place. But for most founders, it actually triggers the opposite. You start pushing harder. You rationalize the pressure. You convince yourself that this is the cost of greatness. So why do smart, successful people ignore all of these signs? It's because letting go feels more dangerous than burning out. This is the psychology of more. All right? Founders, they are wired for control. We don't just tolerate uncertainty, we engineer against it. If I hire, they'll mess it up. If I stop posting, I will disappear. If I don't chase this, someone else will win. So more becomes your shield. If you're always building, always optimizing, always pushing, then nothing can collapse. Right? Wrong. What collapses is you. And when that happens, your business, the one that you thought you were protecting, that becomes unsustainable. Okay? So, the identity tangle, let's talk about that. Letting go feels like failure because for years you've equated capacity with worth. Being needed equals valuable. Being busy equals important. Being in control equals safe. So if you delegate, slow down, or you simplify, it feels like erasure. Like you're not really earning your identity anymore. And that's why even burned out founders, they keep saying yes. They're not just holding on to tasks. They are holding on to identity. This is the escape. The escape, it's not down, okay? It's through. You don't fix this by blowing it all up and moving to Bali. You fix this by building a new relationship with yourself. A relationship where space isn't scary, rest isn't earned, simplicity isn't shameful. That's the real work. That's the quiet work. That's the work you do after you've actually succeeded. When you realize that the metrics, they were never the point. All right? So now, let's talk about exactly what I wish someone had told me after I hit $1 million, and how to rebuild that from the moment forward, right? With peace, but not with panic. All right? Here's what I wish I knew after hitting $1 million. If I could go back in time and just whisper one thing to myself the day I hit $1 million, it would be this. This isn't safety. It's just capacity. Do not confuse the two. The truth is, I had earned every single dollar, but I hadn't really earned peace. I hadn't designed sustainability, and I hadn't created anything that would work without me grinding at the center of all of this. So, here's what I wish I knew, guys. 1, simplicity scales better than speed. I was obsessed with momentum, new funnels, new ideas, new leverage plays. But the simplest thing, a predictable offer, steady delivery, calm operations, right? That would have scaled much more cleanly and sustainably than all of the noise that I created. 2nd, delegation isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I clung to every single moving part because I thought only I could do it right. But what I really, really feared was being unnecessary. Delegation, it's not about efficiency. It's about trusting that you can lead without having to do every single thing. And lastly, the financial security, it doesn't fix emotional insecurity. Okay, there's no number in your bank account that's going to make you feel like enough. That work is internal. And the sooner you stop outsourcing it to revenue milestones, the freer you are going to become. Fourth, that boredom is a signal and not a problem. When the business stabilized, I panicked. It felt too slow, too calm. I thought something was wrong. It turns out I just didn't know how to exist without all the chaos. That was my clue to rewire and not to rebuild. I really wish I had known all this stuff after $1 million. The next level, it's not just more, it's mastery. It's emotional literacy, it's nervous system intelligence. And most of all, it's a shift from chasing peace to building it, brick by brick, boundary by boundary, decision by decision. Okay, where do we go from here? I'm going to show you exactly how I'm designing my business now. Not for scale, but for calm. And how that shift has really made me more profitable and way less stressed. Okay? So, this is what a calm business actually looks like and why it is much more profitable. Not just money. Okay? The internet has sold you on scale at all costs, but forgot to mention the cost of your sanity. The biggest shift that I made post $1 million, it wasn't tactical. It was philosophical. I stopped building for admiration, and I started building for calm profitability. So this is exactly what that looks like. Tangibly. 1, fewer offers, higher margins. No more Frankenstein funnels. No more custom retainers. Just 1 to 2 offers that deliver really deep value, price anchored to outcomes, and structured to protect your time. Simplicity equals conversion. Second, predictable acquisition engine. Instead of just chasing virality or trend hopping, I chose a channel, LinkedIn, and I built a rhythm, daily signal, weekly authority content, and a community that compounded trust over time. No gimmicks, just gravity, and now I'm on YouTube. Operational slack, number 3. I built in margin, but not just financial, energetic. That means that I can take a Thursday off without chaos. That means I don't really need every single client to say yes. That's real freedom. It's not fantasy. 4th, boundaries as systems. Everything has a container. Okay? How many calls per week? What hours I work? What actually qualifies someone to work with me? Not because I'm rigid, but because I respect the business and my own life and my time. You know what's really wild? Since making these shifts, revenue hasn't dropped. In fact, the profit is up. Referrals are up. Client satisfaction is up. And I am not waking up with adrenaline all the time, which is brutal. Calm businesses don't get built by accident. They get built when a founder decides that they are done performing. That's the shift that I made. That's the shift that I now teach people. That is the foundation of every single thing that I create. So let's wrap all this up. Now it's time to walk you through the exact questions you have to ask if you're already successful, but secretly tired, unfulfilled, or really unsure what's next. So here we go. If you have made it, but you are still feeling tired, right? There's a specific kind of fatigue that high-achieving founders really carry all the time. It's not physical exhaustion, okay? It's not burnout from a bad quarter. It is the quiet, persistent tiredness that comes from carrying every single thing for too long. The pressure to keep performing, the unspoken belief that you should be farther along, all right? It's that fear that if you slow down, it's all going to fall apart. You've already won, so why does it still feel heavy? I'll tell you why. It's because you haven't recalibrated your identity for the next chapter. Most founders, they spend their entire careers optimizing for growth. But after you make it, growth becomes a trap. You keep running the same plays: launch, scale, optimize, perform. But deep down, you are craving a different playbook. work that feels light and not loud, clients that energize, not extract, money that's enough, not just more. And this is the hardest part that you've got to remember. You don't know who you are without that pressure. That's the real pivot. It's not from 6 to 7 figures. It's not from agency to SaaS. It's from performer to person. It's from operator to human. So here are the 3 questions that I give every single founder in this place. All right? 1, if nothing changed in my income for 12 months, what would I stop doing immediately? Number 2, if I could only work 10 hours a week, what would I protect at all costs? And 3, if my value wasn't tied to my achievement, what would I build next? Let those answers be your compass. Not a new funnel, not a bigger team, not a $100,000 mastermind. Just those questions, asked honestly, answered without performance. You are not broken. You are just ready to evolve. And the next chapter, it's not about proving. It's about reclaiming peace, simplicity, enoughness. You do not have to scale it to be proud of it, okay? You just have to live it. And if you are ready to live it, perhaps you can join my newsletter. That's natberman.com. Or if you're interested in my community, that's joinbrandbuilt.com. And frankly, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I think I have a problem with you. I'll see you guys in the next video.